Okay, I will call to order the April 23rd work session.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. We're here for a work session tonight on the intersection inventory analysis that Stantec did for us, our consulting city engineer. So take it away, Jason Quisberg. Any questions or whatever come up? I don't know if Jason wants to, what he wants to do. So for answers.
Sure. Feel free to ask questions as we go. Just an FYI, maybe the first third to half of this is kind of the procedure we went through in the process for selecting the intersections, the data that was collected, and how we did things. And then the last portion, maybe half or a little more, is the recommendations that came from it. So I don't know if there's preference on which one to spend more time on. I'll just kind of go through them if I'm going too fast, or if you have questions, certainly just stop me and ask questions.
Sure.
As soon as I figure this out.
Just click the button once. Click the mouse.
Is that one?
Now click it. There you go.
So there was past discussions regarding intersections of the safety and operations. There was a desire on what are we going to do, or the questions were asked, what are we going to do at these intersections, or which ones are important, or which ones should we be focusing on. The information to be used from putting the study together is so it would help with funding solicitations. So when we go out for grant monies, use in the city CIP on developing that, which ones might be priorities and what the dollar amounts might be. And then consideration when developments come in, such as for an example, the Sundance Greens came in and there was upgrades needed for Fernbrook. Likewise, there might be more in that area that might need additional improvements to that intersection. Just to have that information up front so it's we can be clear with what's needed there and what might be the responsibility of the developer. And then also just to answer questions to the public when they ask what's planned there, what's going to happen there, what's the future of it, that we have an idea on some of these. Council authorized the study in October 2023. So to start, there was 30 intersections targeted. So we went through with city staff and we selected 30 of the I'll call them the major intersections or the bigger intersections throughout the city that we thought might be the good ones to have information on. The ones highlighted in green are the ones that were selected. Basically, we just looked at, again, the larger roads, the major intersections, those that would have more pressure or growth in use over upcoming years. If we knew of any that had specific safety concerns, if there was any operational challenges, in other words, if Territorial and 81 is an example where we get reports that you can't turn left out of there. And then pedestrian facilities has been an important one as well, people wanting to get to the park and or other amenities throughout the city. So again, we went through 30, about covers all the major ones, so it was a pretty good number to pick from, and it was manageable as opposed to just flat out doing all of them. So then prioritizing the intersections to figure out which ones do we want to look at closer, which ones need more attention. We selected criteria, and I'll go through that criteria on the next slide. For the evaluation, the primary focus on this was safety and then pedestrian use. Some overlap there, pedestrian safety as well, but it was much safety driven, as that's a lot of where the dollars come from for the grant monies as well, at least through the Hennepin County processes. Usually scores better if there's safety concerns. And then we identified thresholds for this criteria, so we knew what's bad, what's good, what's bad. They weren't necessarily specific values that say it's good or bad. Instead, we tried to use that so not all 30 fell into one category. So we tried to find some balance where we choose a threshold to say these are the worst in that category type of thing. And then from that, we did the research to fill in and populate all the data. There's monster spreadsheets behind this with all of the info that was used in the algorithms to calculate the priority intersections.
So each category was bell curved across the intersections. But
Across the
But
30.
you didn't bell curve the intersections themselves, correct? Yeah, so you take one category and you would say these are the worst, these are okay, and these are the best. And
Yes.
The next category, they could be totally different.
Yes.
Okay.
So each category was done independently.
Yes, thank you. That's
Okay.
that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we assigned what we did as stars or points to each one that was above the threshold in that category, and then that's how we developed the top 10 list, if you will. So this was the criteria selected. The AADT is the average daily traffic numbers. That's just the number of users. For this, we actually went out and hired a company to get counts throughout the entire city at all of the major roadways. So we knew how many people are using all of these intersections, and then we just used a math formula to develop. So 5 million is it's the cross product between the two. So we simply took how many on each leg, and then we multiplied them together to get a number that we could measure against each other. Higher speed limits, we used those existing and planned pedestrian facilities if they were present or not. The number of lanes that the pedestrians had to cross, the more lanes you have to cross, typically the more dangerous the situation. Picking that as 4 is the threshold. And then crash data was a big one, so there's databases available for this. So we went with severity, and we went through A and K severity, which is fatal or serious injury. So not just property damage, but more serious than that. And then the type as well, if it was intersection related or the bike or a pedestrian user related in there. Skew of the intersections, in other words, if they don't quite cross at 90 degrees, but instead there's a different angle, again, territorial being a good example of that one at 81. That created a point. If they were on a horizontal or vertical curve, that could cause some sight distance issues, was another one we looked at. Sight obstructions, just grading along the sides, more so than just vegetation, although that could be a factor as well, but we more so looked at something that would take significant change, grading activities or other. Railroad crossings within a certain distance. Previous control, and we used 5 miles at the cutoff. What that means is if you're approaching this intersection on a main roadway, where was the previous place you had to stop or might have had to stop? Reason being is the farther you go without control, the more likely you are to not obey the controls at the signal. So that was another one. For example, if you have every quarter mile you have some kind of a stop condition, you're more likely to continue your stopping. If you drive 7 miles without stopping, there's a better chance you're going to run the intersection. Adjacent development, and that was just measured what the access is going to developments, residential typically developments in the area. And then we did add a category of just known concerns. Some of these we get calls on frequently, and we felt that should help move the priority up since it's a apparent public concern.
Can you explain what you mean by speed greater than 55 miles an hour?
Just the speed limit of the major leg, or maybe even any leg. Just if the speed limit is greater than 55. Just on the high speed, usually the incidences are of greater catastrophe. So just as simple as posted speed limit.
Why'd you choose 55 and not 50?
Again, just to kind of get that split between the two. And here was the results from those. Those are the 10 in order of how they scored using the algorithm. I don't know if I won't read all of these. I don't know if any of these are surprising or concerning. I'm actually kind of curious if I think staff, we felt they were pretty much in alignment with what we thought. I wouldn't say there was any significant surprises. Maybe where they fell on the list was, I guess personally I wouldn't have thought River Road and Brockton Lane would have
Yeah,
been
why is
quite
that?
as high.
Is there a lot of accidents there?
Not recently.
Yeah, I wonder how that made the list.
Yeah, so it's and I have all the raw data. The report is 530 pages. I can try to sort through and get it, but it might not be good use of time.
I'm sure a lot of it's traffic counts.
But, okay.
Yeah, I wonder the same thing about Dayton River Road in Lawndale.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of motorcycle fatalities on
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that, or intersection related.
Because it's blind on one side?
Yep.
Yeah.
So admittedly, that was the one I found most surprising until Zach and Marty pointed out what it looks like, and I went and drove it and realized why that's.
You see the cross sitting right there.
Yeah, it's terrible looking east, and there's some, there's some a lot of site issues going on there.
Looking east.
Oh, sorry, as you're on Lawndale, looking east, over that hill.
You come down
It
hill
also
by
hits your
house.
cross member right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're driving down the road, if you look and stop at the right spot, you can't even see the road.
Yeah.
Your cross member on your car.
Yeah.
Just based on where that's at, you can't see anything. So like, it's like the perfect angle of
Yeah.
it doesn't work. So
Never noticed that. I
So-
would think you'd have a lot of visibility there because you're coming down the hill right by Magnus. When you can see all the way to the top of the hill.
oh, not by Magnus.
No, it's up on
Magnus.
River
Not
Road.
that
Dayton
one.
Road and Lawndale.
River
Dayton
Road, one more.
Road.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, yeah.
Another, I guess.
81 in territorial is low.
Yeah, and I think part of that, so there's been, I think, 2 fatalities in there, but neither one was linked to the intersection. Because they were due to, I might be wrong on this, at least one of them was a car making a U-turn because of the stop traffic, maybe both, or I think there was 2, does that
Also
sound right?
happened in Maple Road.
Okay, so yeah, they were far enough away, it was deemed not due to the intersection, so that one, if I remember right, that one did not score on the, for that part of it, so.
It's another one that seems spooky, especially if you're trying to take a left onto 81, but
Yeah, and that's another one that's, I mean,
Yeah.
that intersection is just hard in general because people avoid it, right, because it doesn't work.
that's,
So,
yeah, there's that too, yeah.
so probably less accidents because they drive the extra 5 minutes to take a detour, so. but- Any others on here, or?
Actually, South Diamond and Pineview, that one's kind of surprising too, because I would think we'd have more accidents there, but maybe not.
Less with the four-way stop.
Would that probably helps, yeah, but
Yeah, that
I
helps.
know the family lives right there, routinely see people blow right through that
All the
thing.
time.
We hear that frequently. I'm pretty sure that one got a point for the known concerns because of public input on it.
Sure.
And again, I mean, there's not a lot of categories. So I mean, the most is the 10 stars. So I mean, 1 star can move them up or down. I mean, they're
So the
they're all
county a
pretty
couple
close.
years ago had talked about River Road and Brockton, a roundabout. Did that go anywhere?
I have not heard anything since they came to council and shared that. So yeah, they were proposing a mini roundabout there at one time, and that was what, 3-4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, at least,
It's,
yeah. It's a while ago, for sure. And
There
they
hasn't been any follow-up discussions on it, so I don't know where that sits.
I think that's when they were first starting to experiment with the roundabouts, especially the mini ones, and they thought that might be a good location for it.
And they're actually they are underway with a project right now to update the trail crossing there, which is only half a crossing, but the pedestrian ramp at that intersection. So
It's a crossing to nowhere.
Yeah.
they don't control the county. Okay?
because it's on their
That's for
inventory.
We're only the city. That's it.
Because they inventoried it and they know about it and it doesn't meet code, they're required to upgrade it, even though it doesn't have a receiving end, if you will, across the street. But we asked them about it. We actually are having them remove one because we didn't want to promote use of it. So
Well, yeah, it'd be nice to know why that got number 2, because I don't know. It seems like we should. Plus, you're talking about 2 county roads. I don't know how much effort we want to.
I think that's number 2 and number 3 would be, those are both
Yes,
county
exactly.
roads. Number 2 and number 3 are both county roads. And we
Three.
technically have no jurisdiction over. 142nd, I guess we have one
Yeah.
leg.
I'll say
on that one.
3, we own a quarter of it.
Yeah.
so it's scored in the traffic, the speed limit,
Speed limit.
active transportation facilities, so pedestrian facilities because there is the ped ramp there.
Isn't it 30 miles an hour as you get into the city? Like
30
55
there.
stops south of there, doesn't it?
Not on Brockton.
Not on Brockton.
That goes right up to the sign, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
is it? Okay.
And then there was a either a fatality or a serious injury listed on there.
At Brockton. that? Oh,
Previous control is more than 5 miles, and adjacent development probably being the McAlpine, I would guess, maybe being one of them, the access into there. Now granted, that's just an individual. I don't know which two they were.
okay.
And then also identified concerns from the staff or public. So that was where those points were generated on that one. I do have a summary on the point one, so those are a little easier to look up. But.
Is there any one of them on the list that you see that didn't make that intersection list that you think should have?
That did not.
Yeah, so we have the priority intersections, right? We did 30 of them. Identified the 10 based on the star listing and the criteria of the bell curve, but are there any of them up there that you or council see as a issue or a concern that we missed or didn't get at the intersections?
Not I see now, but I think as development continues, you're going to see the ones on Fernbrook start to grow. I think, especially as we complete between 113th and 117th with development, that's going to make 117th, I think, a lot easier intersection. That's a dangerous one. I mean, the sight lines are kind of, I know it comes at a 90, but the way the hills are and coming over the hill there, the one side isn't great. And then I'd say the one on Dayton Road and River Hills Parkway is bad if you're looking to the east. Because you come over the hill, you probably come over the hill there and you can't see anything. And so I think if we get more development up there, and that, that's going to cause problems. But nothing I think right now. I think just right now, I think those are the ones I maybe expected, but not in that order. But
To your point, I think also going into Cloquet Park, that just the entrance to
Oh,
Cloquet
yeah.
Park right there, sometimes people don't know if they're going to Cloquet or if they're going down to LC Stevens, and there's a slow stretch and people slow down, all of a sudden they bottleneck a little bit. It's happened a couple times this last week with me, so I could see that being an issue as well.
Just a note on the Fernbrook and 125th and 117th, they did fall in 19th and 20th. Or no, yeah. 19th and 20th, but there's a lot of ties at 3 stars. So
yeah.
they could really go in either way on there.
I think 117th, once we build out the rest of the Rayburn Trails too and the rest of that land over there, it's going to get
It'll
a
just get
lot
busier.
more traffic.
Yeah. So on the minor leg, and that's where operations start happening, is
Yeah.
when you have more balanced legs. Also good criteria for roundabouts. That's
Yeah.
where they are most effective. So.
I mean, you're going to double the amount of traffic on 117th as Rayburn Trails too finishes up there. So
Roughly, yeah, once it's fully built up.
Yep.
Any others? Just no?
What about like Wright County, like coming out of our little portion, that neighborhood up there? Is there any do we do a date, collect any data on that intersection possibly?
We did not.
We did
I
not.
know it's ours.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any concerns in that spot.
Yeah,
No.
it's not ours.
That's not our.
no,
Oh, you're right.
the Dayton part doesn't get out to that
Yeah.
road. It's
That's
like
right.
It
it's
does.
off
There's like
Alright.
a 100-foot stretch
Oh,
through
but
there, I
the
think.
crossroads
down the road.
Right.
Half the road is Dayton and
Yeah.
half the road is
Sure. Okay.
Three houses.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't know that.
So the closer look at those top 10, if you will, we went, again, hired a company to go out and get actual data at all the intersections. So they did counts at peak hours, how many lefts, how many throughs, how many rights, all of that. So we could look at the operational side of things on it. We also did some estimating of traffic growth in the area, just using different modeling software to try to project what it might be over the next 20-year span. There was a safety analysis conducted. I'm not going to pretend to understand this completely. There's some sophisticated software that does crash analysis, both with existing conditions that can predict future crash rates, and later in the study could be used to predict improvements due to constructed improvements, or I should say reductions in crash rates due to improvements. So not a software I've used personally, but used heavily in a lot of the report here. There was also a warrant analysis, which is essentially rating the intersection using the standard method to determine is it appropriate to put a intersection control, either a 4-way stop or a signal or roundabout or any kind of a control in there. So that was done for all of them. And then they did, it was capacity and operational analysis, which just means how does it function during peak times? Is there a lot of delays or people getting through the intersection? And then those are rated, which is typical, and level A through level, or level of service A through level of service F, being failing. So then we went through and did recommended improvements, so where the challenges are seen and what some potential improvements might be appropriate for mitigating those impacts. And we did some options on a few of them. Most of them we just kind of had a single one, but and then we estimated costs for the construction of the improvements. And then again, using the software and MnDOT guidance, we tried to monetize the benefit of the projects to make them comparable, so we could run a cost-benefit ratio on these and see if the projects make sense. I don't know if folks are familiar with cost-benefit, but you monetize your benefit into a dollar amount. You literally just take the benefit amount divided by the cost amount. If you're over one, there's a benefit to it. The higher the number, the more benefit. The smaller the number, less than one,
Where does
the
the
less
benefit
benefit.
number come from?
Thank you for asking.
From the predictive software, and then it's monetized using, so there's software designed for this. And then there's MnDOT guidance on associating it. So it's
Sure, but what qualifies as benefit? The less wrecked cars?
reduction
or
in,
dead
in
people, or-
so there's a bunch of factors, and I'm probably missing a bunch of them, but like delays. So if you're improving the level of service, there's less delay. People's time is money. So that's how benefit is calculated. I don't know what I don't know what the values are. But the less delays caused at intersections, for example, is worth money because you're taking less people's time. So there's a number put with that. If you're increasing the safety, it can predict, okay, we're going from, let's use an example, we're going from an intersection to a roundabout. That takes away the potential for T-bones or head-ons.
Yeah.
So now your accidents are much fewer and they're much more minor. They're side swipes, so they're minor damage at best. Those have dollar amounts associated with them, so those are the savings realized. It'll show on the summary slide I have here, not in great detail, but how you can kind of see how those are comparable. And then with those, we kind of took a stab at suggesting the short, mid, and long-term implementation projects, just meaning does it make sense to do them now, or does it maybe a little less important, or all the situation hasn't really developed into a real issue, but it should be monitored, and then maybe it should be done some period of time out. Purposely, we didn't try to label this with timelines because there's a lot of factors, but just to kind of give a sense of, if we have the opportunity to build it next year, let's do it. If it's short term, if it's long term, let's monitor. Kind of give that type. So the actual recommendations for each of these. So I do have these for all of the intersections. So there's a lot of them, just to prepare you. Doing okay on time, but I don't want to get too hung up. What's that?
There's about 14 slides.
Yeah, because there's a couple options with some of them. So I'll go through. I'll go through the first one. I marked a few of them as ones that have been discussed maybe a little bit more that we could focus on, or I can try running through all of them. But you guys can let me know, and we'll see how we're doing on time. So this one's Dayton River Road and Pineview. This was the number one intersection. So one option is to add the turn lanes. We've had continued complaints especially from Rosewood Lane residents on coming out of there with the bypass lane. Now there might be some minor improvements here because the county is doing some striping changes here that might help some.
Sure.
It's not the turn lane configuration here. We requested that they do some pavement widening to accomplish this, and that was not an option with their project. So they're doing what they can with the striping under the current project. This would be a future improvement. So the right turn lane is one, and then just to show. So each of these will have, just a summary of the improvement, the cost estimate, and just to note, this is a construction cost estimate, not a total project cost estimate, but with a pretty high contingency, so it might not be too far off. But then again, as these were calculated, so the safety improvement with this would predict less crashes, I would presume. there might be a safety benefit realized of $276,000. The operational, just so the delays and the other factors would be the $960,000 benefit for a total of $1.2 million, which means the benefit divided by the cost is 9.5. That's very high. So that means for the money you're spending, there is a lot of realized benefit there. So that's the way to look at those, and you'll see that varies quite a bit through these.
And that 130 cost, that's just for the right turn lane.
That's just for the right turn lane. Yep.
You're getting a right into left turn lane there, essentially.
Yeah, it's wide enough now, so you'd be adding a right turn lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would have you'd have a left and through.
Dedicated left,
Yeah.
straight, and a right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, it's a left through and a bypass, I think, is.
Yeah.
how
Left
it's set
through.
up.
Yeah.
They figure
It's
there's
not
a-
a turn, but yeah. It's a turn. I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't turn
it's-
there, you're
it's
going
a
full
scary
speed, you're gonna have
intersection, is what it
problems.
is. So,
Seen time and time again. They figure there's enough room to just put different lines on the road right there.
it's not a big change. What they're doing with the project now, they're doing what they can. I think they might be striping it to have a dedicated left, and then it would be, instead of having a bypass, it's a through right.
Yeah.
If I remember right, that's what they're switching it to.
Yeah.
People are getting rented there.
So this is actually the same intersection with the roundabout option. So as you can see on this one, just to compare the benefits, the safety benefits are huge. Roundabouts, again, they take away the T-bones and the head-ons and all the serious crashes. But they actually slow traffic down because you have, and that's why I mentioned earlier that they typically work best, generally speaking, when you have kind of equal traffic on all of them. Because if you have 90% or 98% of your traffic on one, now everybody is slowing down
Most
for the
are gonna
10%
yield
coming this
and,
way.
Yep.
So that's
Okay, everybody's got 15 more seconds in their life.
So I live on a dead end road that I get onto a main road with a roundabout. I think it's the best thing in the world. So I'm a big proponent of that, even when there's not a lot of traffic coming off the dead end. So I agree with you completely. But the operations reads low. It's actually negative, and that's just how the software calculates it, because you'd actually be creating more delays, which puts it at a less than 1 benefit to cost ratio. However, this is still, I don't want to say preferred, but still certainly a recommendation, because if and when traffic levels do increase to a point, on Pineview or situations grow, that operations will go from a negative probably to a positive to make this more cost effective. So it is a long-term recommendation.
Would this have, this option have like a pedestrian or biking option then along with it as people slow down?
Yeah, it's not shown in the schematics, but
Okay.
there's actually a plan for, and this did receive a point for future pedestrian facilities.
Oh.
Even though it's not shown on here, we did score it that way, just because we do have plans to continue the trail extension out here. It went up to 137th or 9th, whatever that
Whatever
is,
that road is there.
going into the new development, but then continue north to Dayton River Road. And if and when we can get a crossing there, that'll be significant.
Tied
So,
in with something like this, and at that
yeah,
point,
yeah.
It's cheaper than what the $2 million we got quoted for the tunnel, I think, to put the tunnel underneath Pineview.
Tunnels are
And the Parks
expensive.
Commission want to look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the sake
You'd be
of
better off
time,
just doing the intersection at that point than putting the tunnel in. There's no point putting the tunnel in.
so again,
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to hit on all of these in detail, or otherwise there's a few that I think maybe we.
Do you want to talk about do you want to talk about Brockton?
No,
Data
no,
road?
you can
Okay.
Okay.
pass this.
So that one's a pretty minor one.
Very minor.
Oh, you went backwards there.
That was
I
bad.
did. I'm wondering why that looked different. So 2 different options for that.
And neither of them are roundabout there, huh?
No, they weren't. They were more pedestrian driven for the safety
Okay.
of it. This is the one I think is probably the most talked about intersection.
Yeah.
So the roundabout option here, and this is a short term. So right off. Let's see, I moved these all over. Right out of the gate, I mean, this has a great cost to benefit ratio through here. So it would be a great project, or we would see it as a great project. One thing, and we're all aware, both county roads. So
Yep.
Yeah.
depending on their participation level, this might be a tough one. But
Is it fair to assume in this case where 3 of those intersections are county roads and one's a city road, and I realize the majority of the traffic is not there for the city road, but is it fair to assume that they're gonna assume that we're gonna pay for a quarter of it, and they're gonna pay for 3/4, or are they gonna assume we're gonna pay for 2/3 of it, and they're gonna pay for 1/3?
unfortunately, the latter, because we've had this situation, and we have
Just like on the
always,
other end.
we've always gone in, I'll use territorial as an option, because I've requested that one on their CIP a lot. So that's territorial, city road, 81, so 2 of the third legs, so I keep proposing it as the city will pay 1/3 of the intersection, and it actually flops, and it'll be no less than 50/50, but probably you pay more, is kind of the answer, so.
That was about, the Pineview one
That's
too.
about what
We
Pineview
paid about a
was,
third of
about
that.
50.
Or they
Yeah,
paid
so,
about a third of it.
yeah, Pineview Roundabout, when we did that with Pineview.
Yeah, the agreement was
1.9.
a dollar amount on that one, which it was
750.
50% of the initial
740,
guess
something like
added
that.
or something, and I think it probably ended up being about 40% county.
Yep.
It was 7 out of 1.9, whatever.
Yep, correct, yeah, so it's about 35 to 40% something county, and then the rest was city.
And now their program actually, the one they're pointing us to caps at $500,000, regardless of project size.
Oh, really?
Caps at a half?
At $500,000. That's the program that when we're asking
That's
about
good.
these
Can we do that,
intersections.
Can we
that?
do that with the
Cap.
contractors?
Yeah.
This is how much we'll pay? Sorry, it's a cap.
Yeah, for example, we recently asked about 117th because of the Rayburn East development, and if we should be looking at upgrades there, and they pointed us to a program that was capped at $500,000, which is the one they're suggesting for most that we ask them about at least. So 81 and Dayton Parkway, I don't know if much to talk about. This will be accomplished when upgrades are done to 81 or when it's midterm. In honesty, it's probably long-term. One thing that was very difficult, we don't know what the upgrades to the railroad would be. They're usually very significant, I'll just say that. But they don't give us the number until it's time for the project, so. So here's Lawndale. I'll just touch on it briefly. So this is kind of the extreme one. As mentioned, to the east is a large hill, if you will, that really takes away from sight distance, leading to the dangerous situation that might exist out there. Again, this is a pretty significant undertaking. Here is an option that might provide some benefit if the realignment's not to be accomplished. So there'd be some grading just to take away some site issues. Again, this isn't going to solve it 100% either, but it's at least an improvement that could be implemented.
Can you go back?
Yeah.
The estimate's the same, cost-wise. Am I looking at that right? Or is that a
I
typo?
put the wrong one in there. Sorry about that.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
for $80,000, that seems like a pretty good
Quite
deal.
a spot.
I was like, you guys are not.
New road by land
acquire
or
all
grade a
that
hill?
I was gonna say, that looks like a pretty good deal, huh?
Move now.
Right? That was a cut and paste.
Do you know what the cost is, Jason?
I am seeing if I can get through
You
that.
need the.
I'm gonna guess it's 0. It's gonna probably be 800 range, that's all.
You forgot a 0.
Well, it's literally the same thing, it's
No,
re-graded.
it was a
base.
cut and paste, so it's not
Yeah.
anywhere
So I'm
close.
gonna guess that it's not even close to 80.
Yeah, I assumed as much. That's why I said something, because the first one was like, 80 grand doesn't seem bad to fix
Right,
it.
you should just sign on the dotted line. You don't ask any questions, man. You just sign. Okay, take that for 80 grand.
Yeah, there'll be a bunch of change orders on that one for sure.
That's a pretty
Kevin will give up
big
his
change
house.
in
Yeah,
elevation.
little
from the
different,
road
620,000.
down to that field.
620.
Sorry about that, yeah.
I'm surprised it's only that.
I think in the end it would be.
It's $1 million.
The-
Yeah, so
the
you gotta
benefit-
remember, this is just for construction costs.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
The
cost
benefit-
of
There's
engineering.
no acquisition.
There's no acquisition for land, this is just
Oh.
construction costs. So
We're
remember
up
that.
to that.
Yeah.
The benefit to cost on that one is 0.42, so
After
it's
you
also
get the
very low
soil,
at
that
this
is
time,
another-
so.
You can go forward one now, sorry. I just saw the
Yeah.
same price, and I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
understand this thing.
So again, just a minor improvement that could be accomplished on that one. This is another one that's probably come up more, at least as of late. Rush Creek Parkway in Fernbrook, into the park. I'll say mostly, or at least what I'm hearing, mostly because of pedestrian concerns or desire to use it for pedestrian purposes rather than traffic, but we do hear the traffic as well. It's just, they're coming,
And
they're
why-
coming down the hill at 70 and,
So my understanding was Tom wanted to do this. Is that or he wanted something other than what we ended up doing out there.
Yeah, but the county wouldn't go for it,
Well, I
right?
think the park, I heard the park didn't want it, but
Oh.
what was the story behind it? And this is something we can still get around.
What's that something to do with the grades coming out the other side? It
He
was
wanted,
an underpass.
well, he wanted an underpass south of here.
I know he wanted that,
Yeah,
but I
and we
thought
tried
he
to move
also-
it north, but we couldn't get it to work.
Didn't he also want to roundabout here? He even had the money to
I-
put into it, and then we got told no, and he put the money in
That's what
landscaping.
that was my understanding.
I don't remember that, but
Okay.
maybe.
That
there-
is my understanding of what I've talked to, the developer that did that development. And there was some sort of problem, whether it was grading, offset
Yeah.
of Fernbrook.
There was problems with the turn lane improvements.
Turn
They had
lane.
to shift because the turn lane, they needed more parkland, so they had to alter the turn lanes.
Yeah.
I don't remember
there was
roundabout
some sort of
discussions,
issue
but maybe.
related to it.
And it's still, like, no matter even if you come up on it from the west,
Yep.
it's really confusing.
Well, the
I don't
nor-
know, did they ever reline that thing? Repaint that? Because there was,
From the west,
yeah.
I thought they did.
'Cause
Th-
some
th- yeah, there
messed
was
up.
there was no markers, there was no arrows on there, so
Yeah.
I think there
Yeah,
was
that
some.
was what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But even, coming up, yeah, I don't know.
The
Just-
north-south on that is bad, because if you're coming from the south to the north, you can't see people are waiting to cross, and they can't see you coming until you're right in the intersection. If you're coming from the south going north, and you want to turn left to go across, you can't see anyone until they're like at the intersection because of the way the hill mounts there.
So a couple things, I'll point out on here is this was purposely fit in here. There would be land required from Fernbrook Church, or not Fernbrook, Faithbrook Church on the corner, and then as well from the developer, but there doesn't seem to be any significant obstacles, if you will. And this also, you can kind of see on that hatched area, that's the existing pavement. So we're actually would be shifting the pavement away from the park. So certainly no additional impact on parkland, which is a huge thing with the whole lock-on restrictions on that. The other one I'll note on this, I guess just to go forward with it. So that's got the benefit to cost of a 5 on it. Another option at this intersection, which is what has been planned, at least as of the last improvements, is to just add a signal. So that's got an even higher benefit to cost ratio, not because it's a better product, but because it's a whole lot cheaper because that's what's out there. So you're basically paying the $570,000 for the signal, not all of the pavement and the infrastructure that comes with the roundabout. Looked at another way, if you look at the safety numbers, the roundabout safety benefit is huge compared to, the signal is high as well, but it's larger than that, as well as the operations is higher. So that being said, the roundabout is probably the better solution, but there's a lot more cost that goes with it as well. So just another way to think of it.
Is the county looking at doing anything
They shared that they were going to do a corridor study on Fernbrook about 4 years ago, but last I asked about it, there was a lot of blank stares. So
With
I
that
don't
big
think
development
they're-
on the south end, they're gonna have to do something that's, I think, within the next 4 or 5 years.
Panklin, yeah, which Troy.
But not with north of there. Because that traffic's not going north.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah.
Well, they assume
Unless
it's
we
not.
do-
They could be going to Champlin, in which case they would probably go north
Well,
up there.
Some will. There's
Some
always a
will,
split,
yeah.
but I would agree. I would say the vast
It
majority
still
is going to 610
depends on
or
what develops
94.
north of Dean's right there too. So there's potential.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential around this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't disagree.
Yeah.
Frustrated. We could have done something years ago. Didn't.
Yes.
So we are doing it again. Touching it twice, 3 times.
You got it.
So I'm curious. Can you go back, man?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't have a preference. I'm curious from the rest of the council. When you look at this, do you think traffic light or do you think roundabout? I mean, we're going to be the ones that probably have to pay for 2/3, if not all of it, to get it done.
I think it would depend on what the traffic's doing. Because, I'm guessing a lot of the traffic, at least in the morning, is going
Going south.
south. And a lot of it's probably coming, from
Right
the
out of that
west there.
development.
I don't know how much is coming from the north. There's nothing coming from the east. And then in the evening, it'd just be reversed. And I don't know, either way you got a left turn, whether it's the roundabout, you got people fishing through that, or the light in the evening.
I mean, the light's probably a Band-Aid temporarily.
I just think of it, there's so much traffic leaving in the morning, coming back in the afternoon. If you put a light there and a lot of those people want to turn
Yeah.
left, they're just going to back up into that lane anyways. I like the idea of just keeping traffic moving with the roundabout. Just funnel where you go, you slow down, you just meander through and away you go.
Costs 3 times as much
Yeah.
for a meander. And I honestly don't know if
it is what it
in the
is.
long
I
run
mean-
we will have a roundabout there.
And that does include
Well, if you ask for it, you will. If you ask for it and are willing to pay for it.
acquisition?
Well, you want to pay for
No.
it.
I don't think the land acquisitions are in there either.
See, the
so-
lights won't require any acquisition, right?
Correct.
No, right.
So now you just added another,
I'm going to make the assumption that the acquisitions would be reasonable from the developer, just because they're outlots. Faithbrook, I don't know what that would be valued at, but just based on how valuations are done, it's basically how can you use your land before and after the acquisition, and I would see this as being
Yeah, I would
minimal
assume from the
impact.
developer's aspect, it's gonna be fairly cheap. They're getting pushback already from the development as if it's today. And if they're the one holding up a whole roundabout from going through it, they're gonna have even more pushback from their.
Church would be the same way though. They want their
Yep.
people to get in and out safe.
Correct. Yeah, like I
So-
said, the acquisition cost of this one would be fairly reasonable, but still, it's 3 times the cost.
Certainly, it seems like the roundabout is the better solution.
It is the better.
looks like there's quite a
It
difference
moves
in
traffic
cost.
So we all agree the roundabout's better, but it costs more. Okay.
well, that's your.
I think that's generally, I mean, that's pretty typical.
Well, yeah, I was
Because
just more
there-
curious if
there's
we
a
wanted
bunch-
to get stuff done. We talked about the intersection cost, but we haven't talked about like, do we think any of these are worth the cost to start getting things done? Whether not necessarily this intersection, whether it's Pineview and Dayton Road or wherever which intersection we pick, but we can do the studies all along. But if we're not willing to get anything done, then the price is just going to go up the longer we wait.
You just gotta
So-
figure out how much you're willing to spend, and that's the projects you go after. That's how I'd look at it. And then where's the funding coming from?
Where did this one sit on the list?
This one's like 5.
I want to, 6, I think?
5 or 6, somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
right in there.
Happened to the homeowners association fees. How's that?
That was number 7.
Okay, number 7.
Yeah, number 7.
So it's low on the list, really.
Well, I mean,
And a couple of county ones in there too, so.
we have about 40 big intersections, so.
How much land is on the north yet to develop there? Is that
Where? On this one?
on the west side?
Between
Up
here
to
and
117, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, all the way. So,
80, if you talk to from this road, from Rush Creek Parkway to 117th, you probably got about 80 some acres left. Oh, then to get back, and then you gotta talk about the Braeburn Trails East development, which hasn't technically gone yet, that's another 40.
Yeah, but
You're talking about 750 more homes north of here, be south of 117th.
I'm just wondering how,
So you're talking for 1,500 more
you
cars.
know, we lost transportation fee, but it seems like, I thought we had thought there might have been a mechanism where we could allocate some of these outside costs to developments. I mean, that's what's driving this. And is there a path there?
Negotiation with the developer, sure. Enforced through the DA.
So that's,
So we can ask for it,
Yeah.
but we can't mandate it.
Correct.
well, if it's a PUD, we can do whatever we want, right?
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah, certainly.
If they don't ask for PUD, then no.
I mean, there was, I want to even say Braeburn Trails happened after the fees went away, if I remember right.
It did.
And they paid for all of 117.
Well, so did Nate's, whatever his development was.
Hayden Hills.
In fact, I think he ended up paying for those.
Pineview Meadows, you're
Hundred
talking?
Meadows.
Yeah. So
No,
Cypress?
is it Cypress?
Cypress Cove?
That was about the time we were negotiating with Tom also for Island Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he still, even though he was part of the lawsuit, I think he still paid fees because he's seen that as part of the PUD process, I think. I don't
Oh.
want to put words in his mouth, but, it just seems like there's some sort of I think there'd be some sort of process we could go through where we could say, this is allocated.
So
through
I
that.
don't want to play attorney, but I mean, if you can create the nexus on, you know,
Right.
short of this happening, your development's premature and our infrastructure can't support it.
Yep.
There's a case for it, for discussions. I don't know, once you get into the legal realm of that, I don't know where that falls, because there's no statute backing the requirement for fees for transportation. They're not protected the same as sewer and water,
Yep.
so.
No, I understand that.
But certainly not unheard of. I mean, pretty much.
We're doing the same thing on 81 in territorial. We're saying,
Yep.
we're not doing these things till we figure this out. So,
Yeah,
Which is why it's
so,
good we did this, something, we've got some of the stuff done
well,
now.
now we got,
so it's not all that
Leverage.
dissimilar from even the connections. So back to Cypress Cove, back Berkshire, and there was a second one that kind of coupled
Right.
with Ione Gardens on River Road. They do their connections, so they have to do turn lanes and sometimes raise medians and other widening. They're expensive projects. It's $500,000 a connection. This is not all that different from that. I mean, really, the easier argument, if you will, is for their connection point. That's 100% to benefit them. That's to get their
yeah,
buyers in and out. A nearby intersection has some regional benefit as well. So then it becomes more of a cost share. I think, at least generally, just talking with developers, I mean, they get it. We're going to put more pressure on your intersection. We'll pay our fair share. I'm sure that'll lead to a lot of arguments what fair is, but
Yeah.
but nonetheless, I
Doesn't
don't
mean
think there's a
more.
ton of resistance from, you know, helping or participating financially towards projects that make sense. And now if you start asking them to do improvements a mile away from them, probably going to have a tougher case. but-
Yep.
Is there a way to take a piece of a permit fee and just say 10% of that permit fee goes for road work?
Oh, that I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if Zach knows that.
yeah, I was gonna say not since Harstead.
Yeah.
Not possible.
Well, that's not talked about.
Yeah, it's not possible because we have to follow building code, and we follow those things. The building code sets where the dollar can go to.
I see.
Just a few more. I'll go through this one. I'll just breeze through. This is Troy Lane in 81. I would just say this gets done either when needed with the Troy Lane traffic level builds to needing it, or when 81 improvements are done. So it's just as a long-term monitor, and then when needed. Again, this one we've discussed. This is the one the mayor just mentioned, in fact. But this is specific to, we just used the same drawing, specific to the 81 improvements. So it's a smaller cost because it's just those improvements on there. And then South Diamond and Pineview, we talked about that one a little bit. Just the roundabout works well here. So it does have a positive benefit to cost ratio on it. Might be a little tougher to implement, just taking property on 3 developed corners. But nonetheless, it does show to be a good project, if you will. We expect that only to increase as traffic increases on all of those legs, really. So. And then the last one, we did not have, the report will have all of these figures as well, of course. All of the existing ones of all 30 that are shown on the right. We did not have a SketchUp of this one. This is Dayton Parkway and Holly Lane Territorial. So just by Semstone, if you will, between 81 and the interchange. Not really on the radar because it's a new intersection, maybe, but kind of a challenging intersection, just with the vehicles getting in and out. So looked at it 2 different ways. One of them for pedestrian use is to get the pedestrian crossing across there, that some RRFBs could be installed. They'd have to be a pretty elaborate system, most likely the ones with the mast arms, where there's multiple lights to bring driver awareness up because there's so many lanes going through there. But that could be implemented. I think that cost is probably low. I think they'd probably be more than that. And then the traffic signal, which will be required at some point. Not warranted yet, but we do expect that as traffic to increase. So,
Well, going back one, Jason.
back one.
Yeah. Well, that's not the one I want to know. No, that one's, I'll be dead before that one happens.
This one.
Oh, that one right there, yeah. That does not have a light factored into it, huh?
It does not. No, it does not meet warrants for it.
Doesn't
So
work, really?
If we funded it, would they allow it?
it's a great question.
Oh.
I don't think so.
I think they've said no. Like
Really?
Yeah.
That's what my understanding
Yeah,
was.
we
Yeah.
asked,
We
we
could
asked
even pay
them,
for those
part of this
things.
process, and we asked them if we
Yeah.
fund a light, will you put it in here? And they said, no, we won't allow it.
They generally don't like them until they're warranted because again they create delay on the main
Yep.
line, which is typically their road.
Correct.
So, but they do the same when it's both their roads. So at least they're consistent, I guess, with it. But,
Conditions written,
that was it. We actually got through all of those. Yeah,
nice.
I don't know if you
By the
had,
way, can you back up? Yeah, no,
oh, to the house.
to the house.
Okay.
That needs a new roof, so if we're keeping that place,
Looks like somebody drew
I
it
got a
out.
bunch of guys
Marty,
walking
that's
around my
probably,
neighborhood
uh,
knocking
I'll
on
be up
doors
there
right
tomorrow.
and you Billy, we can get volunteers to do it, but it's, we're trying to keep that place. We need
Yeah.
some work.
It's a drone photo from a resident that sent it to us.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Can you go back to the list on the ranking of the intersections?
Yep. To the top 10.
Okay, thank you.
1 and 7, I think.
You think 1 and 7 are the biggest priority?
That's what I think are the bigger priorities.
So you're saying forget the science and the stars and go with your gut?
To be honest with you, in the last couple of years, we've had more accidents at the River Road and North Dunwoody Road than we had at River Road and Pineview.
That's one that surprises me because that's the one I'd heard was the worst intersection of Dayton.
The one on Pineview?
Number 3.
North Diamond and
North
Dayton
Diamond and Dayton Road.
Yep.
So the fact that's number 1 was surprising. I expected that to be number
Oh.
1.
Wow.
So I expected to go 3, 1 as the order for 1 and 2. So I was surprised that it was the order it's in.
But I know with the construction they had going on caused a lot of confusion. That's when we got
When the road was
majority
shut
of our
down
accidents,
and
but,
all that.
But
it
10 will
has
be under
been one of the
construction.
worst. More accidents there than we've had at River Road and Pineview.
So just to, and I don't know these, I don't know if you do, Paul, accidents on that intersection, I don't know how, all 5 year, so the last 5 years. 1 serious injury, 6 rating of B, 4 rating of C, 3 rating of O. I don't know what those are. I got to see they're just diminishing in severity.
North
it-
Diamond?
Number 3.
Yeah, yep, North Diamond and River Road.
So that fatality was more than 5 years ago?
The fatality would have been in between Pineview and one.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Pineview.
Yeah, that was right by the pond in Pineview Meadows. That pond out against along the
Oh,
road
yeah.
was
Yeah.
really close to
Where
that.
that fatality was, it was ahead of,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did somebody
came across.
Crossed over.
Crossed over.
drift
Yeah.
across? Okay.
And then there's been 8 angle or left turn accidents, 6 rear end accidents. So there's been a lot of incidences
Yeah.
in that one.
Yeah, that's a nasty one, but it's 2 county roads. So. Is this anything we can get to the county as here's some additional information for you to ponder, please?
So that was one of our initial thoughts with this, is to create it in a way that best aligns. So the county has, I'm going to get it wrong, HSIP, safety, the S is safety. So it's their program, safety implementation or safety improvement program, I think. It's something they have that they allot dollars to. In their program. So they have their county-wide list of all of their intersections that are identified. Pineview and 129th was one of those. So that's how we were able to get the funding for it. It came from a different pot of money. It wasn't from their infrastructure or their build-out fund. It was from a safety program. So our hope with this is to say, hey, here's our concerning intersections. How does this align with yours? If they're on the same list, why aren't we doing stuff? So that was a lot of the driver of, in fact, when this was first requested, if council remembers, we had, it
was
was
a year
great
ago.
timing. We had just started working on this for those reasons. So, yeah, it aligned well. So that's why the extensive safety protocol and all the crash data and the analysis on here is because that aligns with what the county does. So we were hoping to find some synergy there that we're working towards the same goals. We haven't gone to them with the report yet. We wanted to present to you guys to make sure that it looked, things looked in line and there weren't revisions needed. But we plan to go with them and see how do these align and how do we get some of these projects
Okay.
moving.
We
You
have to
don't
submit
have their
this-
list right now.
No.
We have to submit this to the county by May, right? Last year we had to submit it by a certain date in May.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
for
this whole
their-
thing came to be if we weren't
That's
going to
their-
submit anything because we didn't have a list, and now we have a list. And
Oh.
we can submit something.
Yeah.
That's their $500,000 max grant
Gotcha.
matching dollar limit. And
So-
it's like May 30th or something.
Hypothetically, if we say, you know what, we need to fix State Road in Pine View. It's bad. We all agree it's bad. It's been bad for a long time. We're going to fix it. We know that it's going to cost let's just say $2 million.
Yep.
Would they automatically give us the $500,000 towards it if that's what we wanted to do? Without, like we
No.
could
No.
move forward. We
Not
still have to.
automatically.
No, certainly,
Okay.
no, you need to qualify, submit an application and then it's reviewed.
But there's no way they'll give us more than $500,000. Sounds like.
Not through that program.
That program.
So again, that program is separate from HSIP. So HSIP is a different program that they have for funding safety improvement projects. So that's again where we're hoping to find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For 130, you can get that right lane, and that helps. I mean, it's a temporary fix.
Yeah.
Every little bit
We will
helps.
send
It's
out.
certainly a fix that, because right now, nothing's gonna happen for 10 years.
We will send out the full report so you have it. We just want to provide the highlights and stuff. But
Sure.
we can send the 530-page report to the council so you can have that on a weekend
I'll just
reading.
peruse
Yeah,
that one, right?
when you're-
The report itself is only like 47 pages.
I'll
The
be done with that
most of
one
it's a
before I'm
technical
done. By the time
appendices
I'm
from
done
the
with
different things. So, yeah.
Just get
With
through
5
that
minutes till
time you're
council. Any other questions, comments?
done. Well, thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we'll adjourn this.
Thank you.